What's up everyone, welcome back to the channel and to another video. Today I am reacting to your hot takes, part 3. This has been a super fun series, but I think this is going to be the end of me reading the ones off of the current post. If you do not get it read during this video, do not worry, there's going to be more opportunities for me to read more of your comments. I might just do a new post with more hot takes on it, more headcanons, more theories, that sort of thing. But as of right now, I am 1 month from leaving for Japan, and then I will be in Japan for 1 month. So I'm kind of trying to spread out my content, get it all scheduled and ready for while I'm gone, and then I'll come up with some new ideas once I get back. But as always, you are all very creative with these. As a reminder, I might disagree with you. These are hot takes after all, meaning that in order for it to be a hot take, that means that you have to have an opinion that most people aren't going to agree with, and that is okay. I'm going to keep my disagreement as respectful as possible, as always, and I will explain my reasoning behind it. And I just ask that you all do the same. Man, I could really use a snack before today's hot takes. Which today I actually can, thanks to today's video sponsor, Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co. Guys, I am so excited about this one because if you know anything about me, you know that I love all things Japanese culture. I'm learning so much about it as I learn the language, but I also love snacks. I love being a snacky girly, so this is the perfect combination of two things that I just genuinely love. Are you ever sitting there watching your anime and wondering, man, I could really use a good old snack from Japan right now? I mean, come on, the food that they show in anime looks like it's a 10 out of 10. Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co. allow you to do that. Now, if you don't know, Tokyo Treat is a fun and exclusive Japanese snack box filled with limited edition Kit Kats, specialty flavored Japanese chips, seasonal treats, and occasional Japanese sodas that are only available in Japan for a limited time. Now, Sakura Co. is a little bit different. It's a monthly Japanese artisan snack box that supports local snack makers across Japan. Each box comes with 20 traditional, authentic, and artisan Japanese snacks, including Japanese teas and a special Japanese tableware. I got this little cup this time, and it was so cute. And fun fact, a lot of the stuff in these boxes is written completely in Japanese, as to be expected, and even someone like myself who is currently learning Japanese still can't fully read the labels on this stuff. So each box comes with a super helpful cultural guide booklet, and this features snack details, allergen information, and even some fun insights about Japanese culture. The booklet really comes in handy for those of you who might have some food allergies or might just be a little bit more of a picky eater, because the booklet allows you to know what is in it as well as just what you're eating in general, so you can know whether to pass due to allergies or anything like that. Now, every month, Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co. do have a monthly theme, and this month I'm so excited about the theme. It is the Sakura season, the cherry blossom season, with Tokyo Treats being cherry blossom bites and Sakura Co.'s theme being seasons of Sakura. This is incredibly exciting because I am headed to Japan very soon, and the goal was to hit up some of the Sakura season. Just knowing that the theme of the box is so close to what I'm actually going to experience in person is absolutely wild. Now let's talk about some of the highlights. Now, Tokyo Treat has a little bit more of your modern snacks that you can grab from a konbini or just a regular store throughout the country. And some of the highlights of this box included this Sakura blossom cake. This cake had a creamy center filled with Sakura chocolate, and it was so good. It's just so soft and moist. I know people hate that word, but that's truly how I felt tasting this treat. One of my personal favorites from the box were these Momo mochis. Now, in case you don't know, Momo is peach in Japanese, and I like all things peach, I like all things mochi. You put it all together, you get the perfect sweet treat for me. This is chewy, and it is wrapped in an edible rice paper, so keep that in mind when you're eating it. You can just eat the rice paper that it's wrapped around. It just dissolves in your mouth, which is kind of freaky, but amazing. And these were just bursting with peach flavor. It tasted so natural too. It was absolutely delicious. Oishikatta desu. And of course, one of the highlights of Tokyo Treat are the Kit Kats. I've known about these Kit Kats for a long time, and I even buy them from local stores that we have here in the States. But man, I wish we had more flavored Kit Kats in the States, but Japan just does it right with this. This month is Ichigo no Shortcake, or strawberry shortcake, and it happens to be one of my absolute favorites of the Kit Kats in general. I've tasted a lot, and this one still reigns supreme. The strawberry flavor comes through, the shortcake flavor comes through. It's just all in all a party in my mouth. Now, like I said, Sakura Co is a little bit more of your artisan, family-owned, handcrafted snacks. And some of the highlights in this one was the Sakura Daifuku. This was absolutely delectable, and they're made with a soft Sakura-infused gyuchi mochi that encases a smooth, sweet white bean paste, perfectly complementing the gentle taste of Sakura. Umai. Something that was super highlighted in this box for me was the memels. What's fun about Sakura Co is that they also include this sweet Sakura tea. And take a look at this. They literally bloom inside the cup and they taste, it's not like a super overpowering taste either, so you can enjoy it with your favorite Sakura Co snack. Oh, totemo oishikatta desu. Something that's really cool and specific to Sakura Co is that you also get a tableware item every month, and this month was this beautiful sake glass that I'm definitely going to be using. It was so tasty. Thank you again so much for Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co for sponsoring today's video. You can also get your hands on Tokyo Treat or Sakura Co if you go to the link in my description and type in the special code, and you'll get a sweet discount on your first box. Thank you again so much, Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co, for sponsoring today's video. But with that, let's get into it. So before we dive in, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment your thoughts on today's hot takes, and keep them respectful. You can also follow me on social media. I am at Hannah Malay on Instagram if you're interested in more of my cosplay content, and at Looking Nerdy on TikTok and X if you're interested in more of my random thoughts throughout the day, or my fun, silly, cringe Demon Slayer short form content. And finally, if you want to submit a hot take, again, I just ask that you wait until I make a new post. Please don't spam post it on other posts, those get lost. I'm not going to respond to it if it's not on the designated post for it, and at this point I'm done with the one that's there. It's kind of buried. I will make a new one when it is time. Just keep your eyes peeled for it. Warning, this video will contain manga spoilers for the entire video, and they will be manga spoilers all the way to the end of the story, so if you have not read the manga and you do not want to get spoiled, now is your chance to turn back. Our first one, I've kind of touched on a similar one in my last hot take video, but this is submitted by one of my Twitter mutuals, and I do really like what they had to say, so I'm gonna read this one as well. And this is from My Kokoro 1616, and they write, I don't think this is a hot take, more like it depends on who you ask. But power scaling debates are so tiring in this fandom. People are too biased, and honestly, the obsession with rankings and lists defeats the purpose of one of the major themes of Demon Slayer. Teamwork. I think you all already know where I stand on this one, and that is that I agree. I find most of the power scaling discussions within Demon Slayer, while fun, to be pretty useless. And I say that as someone who does a lot of videos on TikTok about going until I get a character I think would defeat this person, or a duo I think would defeat this upper moon, that sort of thing. But they're always just based off of my opinions, and they're just fun conversations to have. The problem is that people take that stuff way too seriously. And power scaling within fandoms, it's always the power scalers and the shippers that tend to be the most, weirdly toxic, which just doesn't make any sense. I mean, I don't think anyone should be toxic within a fandom space, but that's never gonna happen. But you're absolutely right. Demon Slayer is a show completely about teamwork. It is very different from a lot of other shonen animes where it's all about power, about strength. A lot of shonen animes I can think of, the main character is really mostly focused on becoming number one or becoming the strongest or coming to terms with them being the strongest. And that's never a theme with Tanjiro or in Demon Slayer as a whole. The demons are ranked by power, so that conversation is fairly normal to have, but it's also canon because they are ranked by power level. And while the Demon Slayer characters, of course, we have the Hashira, which are stronger than the rest of the cast, there's also a lot of back and forth. There's also a lot of, there wasn't really an opportunity for a Hashira promotion before the final battle. There's the conversation, should Tanjiro have gotten it? That sort of thing. So I definitely agree. I think they're fun conversations to have as long as people can be normal about it, but the problem is people can't. And when you get into the nitty-gritty of it, you're just going against the point of the story, which is teamwork. No one is able to take on a demon 1v1 except for a few small situations, because it's always the team against the demons. That's the point of the story. So I definitely agree with this hot take. I think more people should understand that, and it's okay to have those conversations. It's okay to have those opinions, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what you think. Our next one is submitted by Kago Mekocho. Thank you for submitting. And they write, people need to understand that Demon Slayer is not a romance anime. People get so pressed about ships, and some people, like myself, get attacked for having an OC X canon ship when it literally does nothing to the show because it's just an OC. But a lot of the fandom is just shipping, and yes, while I do like to sometimes ship things, I know how to understand that my ships will not all be true. Like Ren Shino, will never be canon, but I think it's cute. All the Sana Giyu and Giyu Shino people that I've interacted with get so pissed off when you either don't ship it, tell them that their ship isn't canon, or have an OC shipped with one of them. It's not an anime made for romance. Okay, so I wanted to do this one next because I brought up Powerscalers and shippers, the two most toxic side of fandom spaces, and this goes for every fandom that I've ever been in. So it's not specific to the Demon Slayer fandom. Do I think sometimes the Demon Slayer fandom goes an extra mile that I haven't seen other fandoms do? Yes. However, for some reason, people just are really, really, really passionate about their power scaling or about their ships. And when people get very passionate about something, it is easier for someone to kind of act out when someone disagrees with them. However, that doesn't mean you should. First of all, I just want to say I am a Sana Giyu shipper, and I will never attack you for not shipping Sana Giyu because Sana Giyu is like my crack ship, honestly. I like the idea of it, but it's not canon, and I know that fact, and I just live with that. I do get a lot of hate from Giyu Shino shippers. Every time I post that I ship Sana Giyu on my TikTok, the slew of departure announcements is hilarious because I never say, like, oh, I think this is canon and here's why. I might say why I ship it, which I'll use canon moments to defend the ship, which, by the way, I'm making a video about that soon, so stay tuned. But I'm never going to force it into a canon box because at the end of the day, it's not canon. I think people should be allowed to ship what they ship within reason, of course, as long as it is a healthy relationship and there's nothing super problematic about it. Ship what you want. It doesn't matter, especially in a show like Demon Slayer, where there's very little canon romance that happens in it, like you touched on, which opens the door to just a lot of different pairings and we can have fun with it. As long as those non-canon shippers don't start saying things like, oh, it's canon and here's why, and it's just a headcanon. And as long as the canon shippers don't attack people for shipping non-canon ships because it's fun, we could all get along very well. It's just a silly little show with silly little romance pairings. But unfortunately, since I've experienced this in every fandom I've ever been a part of, it's not going anywhere. But I do agree with your sentiment. Okay, this one has a lot of small hot takes. I'm probably going to pick one, and this is submitted by Giyu Tomioka _ Kagome Kocho's man. And seriously, it's long. They've got like a bunch of them, but I want to call out one, and I'm calling this one out specifically because I actually do disagree with it, and I want to explain my reasoning why. Akaza is not a basketball. He is a demon who had a terrible past and has good character development. In my opinion, I like Akaza a lot. Giyu and Tanjiro did not kill Akaza. He killed himself. Okay, so I said I disagree with this somewhat. I'm going to first mention that yeah, and this goes for a lot, and you kind of mentioned it quite a few times. There's a lot of very common jokes that happen with characters like Donut Rengoku, Michael Jackson, Basketball Akaza, Kit Kat Muichiro, right? And it is what it is. People are just joking around. It's fine. I get a little bit annoyed when I say Muzan in a video and then all the comments are, who's Muzan? Isn't it Michael Jackson? I'm like, bro, okay, it's just the character. It's a funny joke, but sometimes it gets a little overwhelming. But people can joke all they want. I don't really care about that. I do agree. I think Akaza is a very well-developed character. I loved his backstory. I was heartbroken when I read it, and I will be heartbroken when I watch it. And I think a lot of people who just right now see him as the guy who killed Rengoku will start to fall in love with him. You know, it's mostly like manga readers all agree Akaza's an amazing character, while anime onlys are like, what? I hate Akaza. There's just that misunderstanding because people haven't read the manga yet. Now, for the second half, Giyu and Tanjiro did not kill Akaza, he killed himself. So this is both, I say I agree and disagree. So when you say specifically killed, correct, Giyu and Tanjiro did not have the blade that killed Akaza. Akaza had to hit himself with his own attack in order to die because of his ability to regenerate even his neck. Now, the reason I'm going to say that I partially disagree with this is because I still believe that Tanjiro did defeat Akaza. Tanjiro did not swing the blade. He did not swing the specific killing blow. However, what Tanjiro did earlier in that fight, which was beheading him, was defeating him. And even Akaza specifically states, I was defeated the moment that kid beheaded me. Because Tanjiro doing that made Akaza get in touch with his backstory, while he was kind of getting in touch with it the entire battle because of Tanjiro. But him doing that made him lose his desire to keep going and end up being the one to off himself. So while I can say, yes, I agree, they did not physically kill him, I would say Tanjiro, at least Tanjiro, if not both of them, still technically defeated him, because if Tanjiro hadn't had done that, they would have eventually died. Our next one is submitted by Maddie B VG6KC, and they write, this is more of a theory than a hot take, but with the new Demon Slayer movies coming out, this is how I think they will be ordered. 2025 Infinity Castle, Shinobu vs. Doma, Zenitsu vs. Kaigaku, Tanjiro and Giyu vs. Akaza, and maybe an introduction into the Nakime fight. 2026 Infinity Castle, Inosuke and Kanao vs. Doma, Genya, Sanemi, Muichiro, and Gyome vs. Kokushibo. Finish off Nakime fight, falling out of the Infinity Castle, and the 2027 movie would be Sunrise Countdown arc plus the future timeline jump. I don't know if these are all coming out on separate years, but it's likely that they will definitely get some space between each movie. I would also love it if the trilogy didn't just include the Infinity Castle. I'd be happy with it either way, but I don't really think they will make all three movies just about the Infinity Castle arc. Okay, so I'm including this because, obviously we just got the announcement of the first movie, and so I want to have a good opportunity to talk about it. I am fully aware this isn't really a hot take, but you commented on the post, I'm going to talk about this because I don't necessarily agree with this theory. I can see why we think that way, but I in no way, shape, or form think they should include the Sunrise Countdown in this trilogy. In my opinion, there are two issues that I have with Demon Slayer. One is the way Mitsuri is handled altogether. Two is how quickly that final arc is done. It is the only part in the story where I felt like things were a bit rushed. And that is part of what makes me love the story so much, is even though it felt rushed a little bit, it still was an amazing end to the story that closed pretty much everything up. However, if they try and squeeze the next 80 chapters into 3 movies, it is going to be rushed unless each movie is 2.5 hours long, which is very unlikely. I'm not saying this isn't going to happen. I'm just saying I don't want that to happen. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense for them to be like, oh, this is a trilogy, and then there'd be another season after that or another movie. Oh, surprise, there's a 4th movie. But at the same time, it doesn't make sense for them to put the Sunrise Countdown in the movies because this, what you said here to me, it's making me anxious thinking about how much they would be squeezing into each movie. That is too squeezed for me. The last thing we need them to do is rush through this final battle, because this final battle is well known to be the best part of Demon Slayer, and if they rush it, it's gonna feel a little bit not as great as it could be. I want them to take their time, I want them to stretch out what needs to be stretched out, and to leave things the way it is, but if they cram all of that into 3 movies, they have to cut things out from an already rushed final arc. They've also been promoting it as just the Infinity Castle. They have not been promoting it as the final battle arc. They've said the final battle begins, and that this is the Infinity Castle arc, but they have not said that this is the end. Is that me coping? Maybe. But I definitely think that the Sunrise Countdown needs its own entity, even if it doesn't make sense because we just have a trilogy and then it's random season at the end. It still needs its own standalone something. The Sunrise Countdown is my favorite arc, and I'll be damned if they squeeze it into the 3rd movie. That being said, my prediction is movie 1 will have Shinobu versus Doma, Zenitsu versus Kaigaku, and then maybe a few minutes of Akaza versus Tanjiro and Giyu. Movie 2 will focus mostly on Tanjiro and Giyu versus Akaza, and also close up Inosuke and Kanao versus Doma. And then movie 3 will focus on the Kokushibo fight, along with the Nakime fight, and probably get us to outside of the castle. I do think movie 3 is going to end on a wicked cliffhanger, because I believe the official end of Infinity Castle is when Muzan declares Tanjiro has died. I could see them ending the movie there. I wouldn't hate it. Give me angst, give me freakouts from all the anime onlys. But again, that's just my opinion on it. I understand people thinking and wanting it to just be this trilogy and that's the end, but I really fear for the pacing if they do that. But thank you for submitting. All right, we're going to do a speed round now. From Denny_Dens. I love all the Hashiras, but Tengen is my least favorite. You know what? You do you. I love Tengen. I have friends who hate Tengen, and I have friends who Tengen is their favorite character in the show. Tengen, I feel like you either love him or you hate him. He's very in between. I hated him when he was introduced. I loved him by the end of Entertainment District. And a lot of my love for him comes from my headcanon that he becomes like the dad of the Kamaboko Squad. But you know what? You're totally inclined to think that. Everyone has a least favorite Hashira. We have to, because there's 9 of them. So, you know, it's totally cool that you feel that way. This from is Luki_Pookie_Bear, and they say, my hot take is Mitsuri is the weakest Hashira overall. Well, that's just canonically untrue. Mitsuri is not canonically the weakest Hashira overall. Shinobu is the weakest in strength, but she makes up for it with her poisons, and then Tengen is right by her as far as weakness goes. So, Mitsuri is way stronger than you think, but, you know, you do you, I guess. Here's another one about Tengen from RBX28U. Unpopular opinion, but Tengen is my least favorite Hashira, and I don't like him as much as the others. I'll probably get people crashing out on me, but oh well. Again, it doesn't matter. Like, people always come for me when I say Obanai is my least favorite and Muichiro is right next to them, because I'm just not as into their characters as some of the others, and that is totally fine. If you don't love Tengen, then you don't love Tengen. There's nothing wrong with that, so anyone who attacks people for just not liking a character as much as others, I don't understand, I don't get it, but it is what it is. You do you. You enjoy Tengen. He's my 5th favorite, 4th favorite Hashira. He kind of rotates around. Only the top 1 has remained the same, and it's because Giyu, for me, is way above everyone else in the Hashira. But anyway, I'm not crashing out, and no one's crashing out on you as of right now. Hopefully no one does in the comments of this video. This one is submitted by Aizen F5Y. They say, it's crazy they are all literally 14 to 25-year-old kids. The anime is all about love and will. I mean, yeah, it's crazy. Sometimes I think about the fact that I am older than all of the active Demon Slayers in the entire story, and then I cry a little bit. They're all extremely young. All of the Hashiras, except for Muichiro, are at least adults. They're just very young adults. But yeah, it's kids and adults fighting in a war. It's actually awful. Like, why do I like this show so much? Holy frick. Alright, now that we're done with the speed round, I'm going to do one more that's a bit of a longer one, and that'll be it for today's video. And this is from Eclipse210. They write, Season 2 is overrated. From an animation standpoint, it was definitely exceptional, but not so much from a story standpoint. Maybe it comes down to character preferences, but I like Muichiro and Mitsuri, especially Mitsuri, more than I like Tengen, and while I love Daki, I'm not a huge fan of her older brother. Honestly speaking, I barely remember the final Gyutaro vs. Tengen battle after watching it the first time, and vividly remember Mitsuri vs. Zohakten and Mui vs. Gyoko. If I'm not fully invested in the story, I can't really appreciate the fight. I don't like Zohakten much, and Daki was more entertaining than Gyoko, but Tengen's backstory wasn't fleshed out enough like Mui's and Mitsuri's. I wasn't nearly as invested in him, and Gyutaro, while he's well written, I just didn't like his presence very much. I don't know, I just felt like he was a drag compared to Daki, who completely dominates every scene she's in. Okay, it's kind of interesting because Season 2, aka Entertainment District, is what we're talking about here. It's still my favorite season in the show, but I kind of agree that it's overrated. I don't know, I've talked about this a lot. I don't agree with the overrated versus underrated thing. I think that saying something's overrated it just means that there's something that a lot of people like that you just don't particularly like. That doesn't mean it's overrated, that just means that you don't particularly like it. In the case of this comment, I understand why you don't like Season 2 as much, because Season 2 caters more to a wide variety of Demon Slayer fans, which are the people that are there for the epic fight scenes, the flashy battles, and probably some of the more, like, tear-jerking backstories for demons. And Swords and Village, I think it still had that, just not at the level that Entertainment District did. In my last video, I talked about how I find Swords and Village to be very underrated, and I still stand by that. I think Swords and Village did not deserve the hate that it gets. And the problem is, the reason that it gets so much hate is because it followed up Entertainment District that caters to the wider audience. In the case of Entertainment District, I agree, we didn't get that much backstory for Tengen. You have to find it elsewhere, which only a super dedicated Demon Slayer fan is going to find. And I've said this before, Entertainment District could be anywhere in the show. It doesn't really progress the story much like Swordsmith Village does. It doesn't progress the characters much. It does. I'm not saying it completely doesn't. Like, there's still the fact that we defeated an upper moon for the first time in 113 years. It still, developed our Kamaboko squad. They all got a bit stronger and that sort of thing during this. But if Entertainment District didn't even exist, I don't think it would make the show worse. While Swordsmith Village, there's a lot of stuff that happens, including developing Mitsuri and Muichiro, and the whole, Nezuko conquering the sun, which I guess you could argue could go anywhere, right? But I feel like if we compare the two, if we take out Swordsmith Village, the show will suffer. But if we take out Entertainment District, not as much. So I guess I say I kind of agree with calling it overrated, because I think that people just only care about the fight scenes and the flashiness, and that's made them not like anything else in it, which is kind of silly because the story is trying to give you something new, and at the same time these people are also complaining that it's repetitive. It's just like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So Entertainment District's still my absolute favorite so far that's been animated. I know that's probably going to be knocked off its pedestal once Infinity Castle comes out, but it's all up to the person and what they enjoy, and that's why I hated the whole conversation that Swordsmith Village was bad. When it's like, okay, it's obvious that you just prefer the flashy fight scenes, and that's okay. If you obviously prefer the character development, and that's fine too. So you're obviously going to dislike one over the other because Swordsmith Village and Entertainment District serve very different purposes and go very different routes. So thank you for submitting. I hope I made myself clear. These videos are always kind of just me yapping because I don't fully read them ahead of time and I don't script my answers, so I just give you my honest thoughts. But thank you for submitting. Okay, but I think that is it for today's video. Again, if you did not get your hot take read, it probably just means yours was too long, I didn't have time to get to it, or I didn't fully understand what you meant, and I don't want to completely misread something on here. So don't worry if I didn't get to you. There will be more posts like this. Just keep an eye out for it. But thank you all so much for watching today's video. Once again, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment your thoughts. You can follow me on social media at Hannah Malay on Instagram and at Looking Nerdy on TikTok and X. And finally, don't forget, if you want a sweet discount on your Tokyo Treat or Sakura Co box, go to the link in the description and we'll get you set up. But with that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see y'all later. Mata ne!